Good morning. Welcome to the love and the light that is Unity Church of Overland Park. Whether you are joining us for the very first time or whether you have been with us for a lifetime, know that today, for at least, this is your spiritual community. This is your home. And we trust that in coming together, even if it's online, that you will be nurtured and supported, and you will know that you are loved. We had hoped to be back at Abdullah this Sunday, but because of the increase in cases of coronavirus in the area, the staff and the board got together and together they decided that we would push that back 1 week. So we hope to be at Abdullah next week on July the 5th, and we hope those of you who feel like it's a good and safe thing to do will be able to join us then. The rest of you who want to continue to be part of our service, but maybe not come in person, please know that we will still live stream this service. And so as we begin, I would encourage you to like us on Facebook. If you want to, let your friends know that you are attending the Sunday service at Unity Church of Overland Park. Each Sunday morning as we begin our service, we intentionally light this candle. Unity calls this candle the Christ candle, and we light it remembering the words of our brother and our way shower Jesus, who said, "You are the light of the world." So I just want you to breathe that in, that deep knowing that you are part of the light of God. You are the light of God in this world. And as we know that truth for ourselves and for each other, for our brothers and sisters, let us affirm one of Unity's foundational statements of truth. Let us say this together. There is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, God, the source of all good. And so it is. And so, good morning, Reverend Carrie. Welcome.
Good morning, David. Well, we knew that today was going to be Aloha and Mahalo. Oh, you know the word that we're talking about. Mahalo. There we go. And so I wore my sunglasses, but it's not so much because I'm imagining being on a sunny beach in Hawaii, but rather that there's some sadness in my heart, and I wanted to hide my tears because, well, this is Reverend David's very last service with us. And so we would also like to hold that aloha in our hearts, knowing that it means hello and goodbye. And mahalo for being with us, which mahalo means thank you. So thank you for being with us this Sunday. So please join me as while David is gone, we will continue to move forward. And so we're going to affirm, first of all, our minister search affirmation, centered in gratitude and joy. We embrace our new senior minister who co-creates with us a thriving spiritual community. And in addition to that thriving spiritual community, we also affirm our future space. So we are grateful for our new spiritual home that empowers us to fulfill our mission. And from that space, we allow ourselves to move into a sense of peace, a sense of connection. For we indeed are simply not separate or will ever be separated from those we love. In particular, one of our dear congregants of many years, Jim Sherman, made his transition yesterday afternoon. So we hold Donna Sherman and her family in our hearts. And from that space, we realize that there is so much love in our hearts that we can open up to a bigger space. more love, deeper love, compassion, understanding, and a knowledge of wholeness. Because no matter where we are, whether it is on this earthly plane or having moved beyond, we are still present with those that we choose to hold in our hearts. So this Sunday we hold all in our hearts, for we are big enough to do that. And we are so grateful for so much, for the essential workers, for the people who have reached out in so many, many different ways to make this time during the pandemic easier and help people nurture their way through this. We are so grateful for the light and the love that is Unity Church of Overland Park, that continues to go on. Despite all appearances, we choose to step forward, affirming our truth, affirming our mission. Nothing stands in the way, for Spirit is our source. And we know that any obstacles that appear are simply opportunities to grow and expand out of. So we simply say, thank you, God, for today. Bless those with strength and power to walk through whatever difficulties they are walking through today. As we move forward into our service, blessed with David and the rest of our team. And so it is. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Carrie. That was a beautiful prayer. So, as Reverend Carrie said, this is David's last Sunday with us. And we signed a contract with him that started 2 years ago, and it ends today. He was hired to help us transition from a church on a journey from disorganization and confusion to who we are today. And we are quite a different church now. He has led us through a maze of losing ministers, of selling our church home, and downsizing in all aspects of the church, the staff, the volunteers, and the community. From not knowing who we are or even who we want to be. There were feelings of hurt and betrayal. Sometimes it's been a rocky road, but Reverend David persisted. He has helped us learn about ourselves individually in many ways through the Q process. He skillfully led us through other activities like the genogram, which was a turning point of understanding for many of us. He has asked us to think and to apply practical Christianity principles every Sunday through his carefully planned and delivered talks. As we moved through thinking and feeling exercises, he personified a clear message. There is only love. We now share ideas of our mission in this world, in this community. We are more unified in energy and direction, and our focus is much clearer. So it's difficult to put into words the new Unity Church of Overland Park, but I can see Reverend David's gentle hand in the sculpture. We send him on with our appreciation for always moving us forward with compassion and skill. We send him on with a bit of trepidation as we are left to navigate the world of hiring a new minister and continuing the building process. We send him on with our affection for agreeing to be our mentor and the patience to see us through. We know that his gentle manner and skill in understanding how to be a strong leader will serve another community. Thank you, Reverend David. You cannot hear our applause or see the appreciation on our faces today, but know that all is there. And we thank you. Namaste. So, to commemorate your transition, the board has a small memento of your time with us. This memento reflects how you have moved us through several light years with technology. For example, we're in a broadcast studio now, and how your love of earthy tasks like baking bread and growing tomatoes goes together. So I was planning on presenting it to you at the service, but I will unwrap it here and show you our memento so that every time you wear it, you remember. I'll let you read it. So may you think of us as you wear it, and I'm not sure how I'll get it to you, and we will miss you, but we truly love, bless you, and appreciate you. So, David, thank you for all you've done and for all you do. Namaste. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam.
Surely.
Okay, Pam, thank you. That was beautiful. David, we will miss you, and I hope you wear that shirt proudly. This is the time in our service when we will be blessing our offering. And so we know that we give in partnership to the fulfillment of UCOP's mission of transforming lives and empowering people to make a difference in this world. If you are writing a check, then please mail it to the address listed below. If you prefer to donate electronically, then please go to our website. It is www.ucop.org. And you can donate electronically there, or you can go to the address below and click on the donation button in the upper right corner of the screen, or you can do that through Tithely on our e-news. If you haven't subscribed to our e-news, then also go to our website, scroll all the way to the bottom of the home page, and you can easily subscribe, and you'll get the e-blast every week. So now let's bless our gifts of time, of talent, of treasure, as we affirm together. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And I am joy-filled and grateful. And so it is. Amen.
I wish you strength to rise unafraid, like the morning sun taking on the day. Because when you shine, you light up the place. I wish you strength. I wish you faith that you'll overcome whatever you face till your journey's done. Beyond any words and the suddenest grace, I wish you faith stray. And I wish that you could see you that I see. There's the edge possibility. I pray you will find all that you need. I wish you peace that comes from within, and a gentle release from all that might have been, like the stillness that waits between waking and sleep. I wish you peace. You know, I wish that you could see you that I see. Right there at the edge, possibility. Pray you will find all that you need. I wish you stayed. Your eyes are afraid. The moon and sun taking on the day. Because when you shine, oh, you light up the place. I wish you safe. I do. I wish you faith. I wish you peace. I wish you strength.
Thank you, Terry. Aloha, hello, goodbye, and mahalo, thank you. These two words from the Hawaiian language fit this moment in our lives because they recognize our divine core and the sacred in this very moment. Aloha is a greeting used in both meeting and parting. At its root is an invocation of divine spirit. Aloha is comprised of two root words, alo, which means presence, with a capital P presence, indicating divine presence, and ha, which means breath. The root meaning of aloha is the presence of divine breath. On a spiritual level, aloha is an invocation of the divine as it is acknowledging the presence of the indwelling divinity in us. The divine presence is as close and as sustaining as our breath. Aloha. I see you and the divine presence within you. Aloha is very like the Sanskrit word we use here all the time, namaste, meaning the divine in me sees and greets the divine in you. And it lies at the heart of my time with you. For this community has proven to be a place where people connect to the aloha in each other and within themselves. The idea of divine breath would have been completely understood by our brother and our way shower Jesus. The Aramaic word that he used for God is alaha, not too dissimilar from aloha. Some of the various meanings of alaha are sacred unity, oneness, the all, the ultimate potential, the one with no opposite. In the Aramaic mind, alaha, sacred unity, was also intimately connected to the breath. In the Gospel of John, the 4th chapter, Jesus is quoted as saying, quote, "God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth." End quote. The phrase "God is spirit" in the Aramaic is ruach Aloha. The Aramaic word ruach translates as spirit. It also can be translated as breath, or even as the word wind. Spirit, breath, wind. They were different aspects of the same cause to the Aramaic mind. God is spirit. God's life in us is breath. The world's breath is wind. They are all indivisible parts of the wholeness that is God. The Aramaic word ruach connects the indwelling Spirit of God to the breath of our lives, just as aloha recognizes the presence of the divine breath indwelling us. The Aramaic scholar Neil Douglas Klotz has worked to expand the standard biblical translations into alternate possibilities contained in the Aramaic language. He did this in order to enhance our understanding. And so, in an alternate reading of John 4:24 that begins, "God is spirit," Klotz translates that as "God is breath." His translation of the entire verse reads, "God is breath. All that breathes resides in the only being. Those who surrender to sacred unity must do so in breath and harmony, like the right direction that drives the universal winds." God is breath. We acknowledge the presence of the divine here today as the very breath that we breathe. Aloha. Namaste. I behold God in you. God is not some distant other being out there. God is everywhere present, and so present in me, present in you. What a wonder God is. And the idea that God is in us and therefore we are an expression of divine love is found time and time again in my personal spiritual work, A Course in Miracles. And from the workbook, I want to share a reading that comes from a section entitled, "What Am I?" And I quote, "I am God's child, complete and healed and whole, shining in the reflection of God's love. In me is love perfected, fear impossible, and joy established without opposite. I am the holy home of God Himself, and where His love resides. In these days we gave to God together, you and I. We found a single purpose that we shared, and thus you joined with me, so that what I am, you are as well. We learned that His word of love is written on our hearts, and thus our minds are changed, and we enter into the heart of God." End quote. These words express for me the essence of my time with you here at Unity Church of Overland Park. I have seen you willingly join together to release the blocks to love's expression and to respond in creative ways to the challenges facing you. The heart of God lives in this community. Looking back, I appreciate the work that you have done to set Unity Church of Overland Park on a path of sustainability. I have seen this spiritual community take steps to evolve into a new expression of purpose and of love. Unity co-founder Myrtle Fillmore wrote in a letter compiled in the book How to Let God Help You about the purpose of life. And I believe that her comment applies to this spiritual community. And I quote, "The real purpose of your life is to express the creation of God, to unfold the many departments of your mind which God has planned for you, and which will enable you to know and do His will." End quote. Myrtle could have been writing to Unity Church of Overland Park. From your founding ministers, Donna Unfried in 1974 and Hypatia Hasrock in 1975, until today, this church has lived into its chartered name, Unity Church of Living Truth. You have sought to unfold the many departments of your mind and to live the truth of Spirit expressing as you. Now, how the Spirit of Truth expresses has evolved over the years. From your beginnings in hotels and strip malls, Unity Church of Overland Park saw an amazing growth in the 80s and the 90s as you taught unity principles to your youth. This church served as a platform for many nationally known New Thought leaders. You created a dynamic music ministry and were one of the first to have a vibrant house band. For years, these three threads empowered this ministry: youth, music, and dynamic leaders. In many ways, Unity Church of Overland Park was a trailblazer for others to follow. In the last 2 years that I have spent with you, I have heard you remember the great times of the past. And I have also heard you acknowledge that the world has changed around you. While you have been, in many ways, a trailblazer that others have followed, you have also been traversing the unknown in these last 2 years. You had the wisdom to release a building that had become a roadblock, and you willingly stepped into a time of not knowing. You were even willing to allow me to join you in this journey in uncharted territory. In my time with you, we have taken a brave look at Unity Church of Overland Park's collective past, and we have discovered both the light and the shadow. I would be remiss if I did not observe that our collective shadow can inform both our past and allow us to act with more wisdom in the future. Shadows arise both individually and collectively from moments of hurt, from misunderstandings, and from times of inauthenticity. Those congregants who participated in last fall's genogram exercise witnessed Unity Church of Overland Park's shadow resurfacing through the years. Shadow events always lead to moments for regret. Seeing them clearly also allows us as a community to live from a new expression of divine purpose, to act from integrity, to be aligned with our spiritual core. Now, I understand how uncomfortable it can be to understand and look at our shadow qualities, and how empowering it can be to understand those Christed qualities that we hold. But as we do both, I see great possibilities for a new, vibrant future for this community. In the next 6 weeks, plans are in place for you to meet and to interview 4 wonderful Unity ministers who want to be your next senior minister. The Future Space Team is constantly finding new and interesting possibilities for the next new home of Unity Church of Overland Park. The time of being in transition is coming to an end. The time is arriving where you will create a new expression of purpose while still retaining the word of love that is written on your hearts. You are still Unity Church of Living Truth, and you have learned to breathe into the Spirit of God in you, and you've done it in a more intentional way. I have seen you trust in the sacred unity of God as a presence that lives in this community and in the intentions you hold for the future. The idea of the sacred unity of God being as close as our breath is more than a metaphor, for it forms the basis of Unity's belief that spirit is the fundamental template that creates all expressions of matter. It is this belief that allows us to intentionally change our life experience. So as my time with you as an interim minister draws to a close, I want to intentionally leave you with a blessing. That brings me to one more word to share with you: mahalo. The Hawaiian word mahalo means thank you. But like aloha, mahalo has a deep spiritual meaning, one that goes far beyond gratitude. Using the word mahalo is an act of divine blessing. Mahalo is comprised of 3 root words: ma, ha, and alo. And we've already seen 2 of them in aloha, alo meaning presence and ha meaning breath. We add one more word, ma, which means in. Mahalo is in breath the presence. Or in English order, we might say, may you be in divine breath's presence. On the spiritual level, mahalo is both a prayer of divine blessing and an acknowledgement of the divinity that dwells within and without. Mahalo can simply serve as a heartfelt thank you. And it can be a divine blessing that sees the whole and perfect child of God in the other and knows that is the truth. So I say to you, mahalo. I see you as my divine sister and brother. I thank you for this journey that we have taken together. You have been a blessing to me beyond measure. And as you move forward in your minister search, and your search for a new physical home, and the work of evolving into a new expression of Unity Church of Living Truth, May you be divinely blessed. Mahalo and aloha. Namaste. So, my friends, if you will, join me in a time of meditation. So I invite you to center in, to closing your eyes if that's appropriate, to breathing, and to focusing on the breath. And allowing that breath, however it moves in the body, to turn your attention into the heart. And as we connect with the heartbeat of the physical heart in our chest, and we put the breath, that sacred breath that lives in us, into our heart, we breathe in that heart, and our heart just opens. And we, in truth, are being breathed by the very heart of God. And we breathe. And we allow that breath to take us deep into this heart of God, this place of light and love and wisdom, this place of unconditional love, where we and God are one. And in this moment of being breathed, of being one in divine spirit, with these open hearts, we for a moment just listen. Listen for that still quiet voice in us. Listen together in the silence. In the sacredness of this holy moment, God has given us a gift. So I invite you to see that in your mind's eye and this moment in your heart as a present that lies before you. See that present. It's wrapped in such a wonderful way. I invite you to reach out your hands of spirit and pick that present up. And take a moment to unwrap it, to open it, to discover in this moment the blessing that God has given you. And in this moment of divine blessing, we take those names that we have brought in heart and mind, names for healing and comfort, for support, for nurturing, for abundance, for guidance, for whatever purpose. We lift those names now up, giving them unto this Spirit of truth and light and love, by whispering them on our lips or in our hearts. And likewise, from this holy moment of prayer, we know that God is that light and love, that nurturing presence everywhere in the world. And so we reach out to touch every heart in every being, every place in which there is sorrow or lack or distress or discomfort of any kind. We send forth this love and light, for we know God is as close as the breath. And so it is in this moment that we are filled with gratitude for the grace, for the love, for the oneness that we are, that God is. And we simply say, thank you, God. Thank you, God. Say that with me. Thank you, God. And so it is. Amen and amen. And I invite you to take a breath, a deep one, and as you let it out and begin to return to this time and to this place, let our good friend Terry Swope bring us out of this moment of meditation with, thank you for being a friend.
Thank you for being a friend. Travel down the road and back again. The heart is true, you're a pal and a confidant. I'm not ashamed to say, I hope it always will be this way. My hat is off, but you stand up and take her down. Yeah. And if you threw a party, invited everyone you know, you would see the biggest difference between me and the contacts will say, thank you for being a friend. Thank you for being a friend. Thank you for being a friend. Yeah. Thank you for being a friend. So call you laugh, I'm sure to buy you a Cadillac. Whatever you need, anytime, the day or night. I'm not ashamed to say, I hope it always stays this way. My hat is off, would you stand up and take her down? When we both get older, we're walking days of hell and grace. Have no fear, even though it's hard to hear, I will stand right close and say, thank you for being a friend. Thank you for being a friend. Thank you for being a friend. Yeah. Thank you for being a friend. And when we die, into the night, the Milky Way. I'll call out as we ascend. I'll say your name, and once again, thank you for being a friend. Thank you for being a friend. Thank you for being a friend. Yeah. Thank you for being a friend. 'Cause I wanna thank you. Thank you for being a friend. I wanna thank you. Thank you for being a friend. I wanna thank you. Thank you for being a friend. Thank you, Reverend David, for everything. Mahalo.
Well, that was beautiful. Thank you, Terry. And I also want to let you know that Terry is become a bigger celebrity than we ever knew in our community, and that is that Terry Swope has been inducted into the Kansas Music Hall of Fame after nearly a lifetime of songwriting and performing. So, the 2020 inductees, originally going to be recognized at a live performance at Liberty Hall, will instead share a recorded release on July 25th. And if you go to the Kansas Music Hall of Fame, you can get the information about that online. So congratulations, Terry, for this outstanding accomplishment. Y'all need to know that he stands in the shoes of people like Vic Damone, Melissa Etheridge, our own Kelly Hunt, and so many other wonderful Kansas musicians. So we are blessed. Thank you, Terry. Also, we will not be having a Zoom meeting following today's service. Instead, if you have joined us on Facebook or YouTube, stay with us after the service for our sharing circle. UCOP kids and Uniteens will also be having their weekly Zoom meeting following the service. For more information, check out our UCOP Facebook page. Kelly Corbett posts that information there on how to get connected and join the meetings. Join us each weekday at 11:30 a.m. on Facebook for Interconnections. It's a 15-minute meditation that gives you the time and the opportunity to turn within and connect with Spirit. And I will be joining you. I will be my very first time on the meditation cycle on Monday morning. So please join me tomorrow at 11:30. And it will be recorded so you can hear it later on. Then join us next week, Sunday, on July 5th, when Patrick Andrews will be providing the message, Faith as a Mustard Seed, a peek down the rabbit hole. And we hope to be back together at Abdallah, but please stay tuned. Watch your e-blast because things are pretty fluid right now. Pancho Javier will be our guest soloist. If you're in need of prayer support, know that myself and the prayer tech practitioners are always available. Leave a message at our office at 913-649-1750. Send an email to ucop@ucop.org or contact Silent Unity at 816-969-2000. And now, please stay with us as Terry sings us out with Blessed Always.
Blessed always, blessed always, for the arms of God surround us. Let our joy be so triumphant, rest in God, Savior. Blessed always,
Thank you, Terry. And now I'm just going to indulge myself for a moment in that I want you to recognize what a special, amazing day this is. I've always said that Unity Church of Overland Park is a microcosm of the macrocosm. And amazingly, today, within the last 24 hours, we have lost a dear one from our congregation. And during this very service, I got an email from my sister telling me that there is a brand new baby being born right now into our family. And then we got to recognize our transition from our transitional minister into a new and amazing other world. We're not even sure what's going to happen yet. So it's all about the unknown and beginnings and endings. So take that in. I know that Unity Church is moving forward in a way that we cannot begin to imagine into bigger and greater things. So please affirm with me the prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And say and affirm with me, with all of your heart and soul, deep from the core of your being, Unity Church of Overland Park transform lives and empowers people to make a difference in the world. Please stay exactly where you are, exactly in this moment, as Pam takes us into our sharing circle.
Wow, what a wonderful service. We have been truly blessed. My heart is full and open. But if you would stay with us, because we are starting the sharing circle part of our service right now, and there is much to share, much that you will want to hear. An agenda will be shared, but know that our purpose is to communicate the current state of Unity Church of Overland Park. We will move through sharing our topics without stopping for questions. But please feel free to communicate your questions through the chat features on YouTube and Facebook, and we will answer them after we have talked. Is there anything else I need to say about the technology part? I am asking my cohorts in cyberspace.
We will, Pam, we'll keep up with the chat line and note questions, and then when the time comes, we'll share anything that shows up.
Okay, thank you very much. So as you already know, this is Reverend Mosier's last Sunday with us. Even though he is leaving day-to-day involvement, we will no doubt take advantage of his offer to be available to us, to be a resource to share any information developed from the transition work we did together. A very generous offer that I'm sure we'll take advantage of. We will see him again on a Sunday this summer when he returns to bid intentional goodbye to the congregation. But in the meantime, I want to share with you what has been happening with the board. We've been so busy this year that we moved from meeting once a month to meeting twice a month. You would think that would be the meetings would be shorter, but that has not been the case. In a few words, this year we have studied, reevaluated, and redefined each staff position. We have juggled with fiscal responsibilities while learning a positive approach to managing church finances. We use an intentionally inclusive, balanced approach to choosing a ministerial search team, which turned out to be stellar. We have interviewed and evaluated 4 ministerial candidates. We have investigated many properties and had discussions about how to best find and afford a new church home. More about that later. Our meetings have been collaborative and decision-focused to move us to where we are today. The board members have given focused time and energy to all these activities. The meetings have had 100% attendance in all but a few instances. It has been interesting and exciting, and we are unified in our sense of purpose. We make decisions that honestly benefit the church. So the end of June is the official date to change over board members. If you recall, we did not have an annual meeting due to the COVID problem. But the board did appoint a new board member to begin July 1st for a 3-year term. That new member is Lona Davis. If you do not know who she is, I hope she will identify herself later, maybe next week or something, as one of those waving boxes. She's been a valuable asset on the future space team, and we look forward to working with her on the board. And thank you, Lona, for tithing your time and talents to the board. Kathy Combs has served on the board for a 2-year term and is stepping down soon. I have asked her to continue to meet with us until after a new minister is hired. She's been involved in all the candidate interviews and has been an active member of Unity Church of Overland Park for many, many years. Her dedication to the church, the Unity principles, and the ministry is evident in all she does. She may not offer many comments, but when she does, we all listen very carefully. Kathy, we appreciate your service, your dedication, and your spiritual insights. And we say thank you so much. So goodbyes are often difficult, but we are moving along as a church to begin an exciting new identity. With a new full-time minister and vision, I feel we are ready to begin. I can feel that energy. I can feel that focus forming, and we are ready to move right out of the box. So I haven't seen the agenda, but after the opening remarks, which is me, there will be a fiscal accounting with Tom McNamara, and then a ministerial search update with Deb Amendola and myself. A future space update, also with Deb, because Patrick is out of town. And then David will join us again with the minister's report and transition highlights and closing. Then we will take questions from the congregation. So I will turn this over to Tom to give us some fiscal accounting of what's going on.
Thank you, Pam. So I'm going to make this short and sweet. Generally, we spend quite a bit of time at the annual meeting going over financials, but so I've kind of shortened it a little bit, and I'm just going to hit the highlights. And if you guys have any questions, you can communicate those in the chat on the chat side. The page 1 of the handouts, the display there shows, and I can't see it. How do I close that? Oh well, page 1 shows just highlight of all the general categories. Our total inflows dropped from, our income dropped from 472 to 352, 25% drop. Outflows dropped from 565 to 430, again, about a 25% drop. Net cash flow improved a little bit from having more outflows of 82,000 last year to more inflow, or more outflows this year, or less outflows this year, I should say, of 76,000. One thing that we did do at our last board meeting, I want to share with you. Originally, we had planned on keeping $500,000 in our reserve balance to cover future operational expenses. And at the last board meeting, we had dropped it from 500 down to 375,000. We think that'll still be enough to get us through 4 years or so. And the expectation is that we're going to be, opening up a new chapter here pretty soon in Unity Church of Overland Park when we bring in a new minister, and we're going to continue to try to find a new place to have our services. So when those things come together, we're expecting good things, and we're going to see improvement here. The building fund, this allowed us to increase the building fund. We've been having somewhat of a challenge trying to find a building with the available funds that we have. So reducing the reserve is going to allow us, give us some more funds on the building side. On the flip side, one of the things that's not included here, in June, it's either late May or June, our T-bills, 2 of our T-bills matured, and the interest that we earned on those 2 T-bills was $44,000. So that $44,000, which is really interest that we earned during the last fiscal year, doesn't show up in these financials. So that helps us out there. Page 2. I didn't hear any questions, so that's good. Page 2 shows our overall expenses at a high level. Salaries went down 10%. Administrative went down 19%. Administrative, yes. General ministry went down 16%. A big chunk of the general ministry is spiritual giving. $32,000 of that is represented by spiritual giving. Music and sound went down 43%. That's basically our soloists. During the year, YFM went down 65%. Building and grounds went down 51%. The biggest chunk of building and grounds is all of our rituals that we have for Abdallah, and where we're storing some of our church supplies, tables, chairs, things that we'll need when we open back up. Our piano is one of the things we have in there. Next slide 3. You guys thought you were going to get away without me showing a picture here, but that's not the case. So 3 has a little picture here that shows a graph. Now, this graph shows our weekly attendance since we moved out of 103rd and Antioch. So the top line there, the blue line, is basically August through April of 2000, or August of 17 through April of 2018. At the bottom, it shows 1 through 52. That's basically the 52 weeks of our fiscal year. Our fiscal year runs from May through April. So that's why these, and I've kind of got that illustrated down there at the bottom. So when we moved out of 103rd and Antioch, our attendance in the first year was dropping at a faster rate than it has been over the last year, basically our last fiscal year. You can see that our attendance has kind of leveled off quite a bit, hovering right around 100 to 105 in attendance. So that's a good thing. You can see the trend line there that's showing, I'm talking about the orange line there. The trend line is showing a much lower reduction than the blue line was. So that's really all that I have to share. If you guys have any questions, you can just toss them on the other side. I'm going to turn this back over to Pam.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Tom. He's such an asset for us with all of his knowledge and his accounting experience. So I will now ask Deb Amendola to step in and give us, she's going to talk to us about a ministerial search update. She is our liaison from the board to the ministerial search team. And I cannot praise them enough for drawing to us such excellent candidates. We had two who applied. Actually, we had three who applied early on, and we have, as a board, we have interviewed them, and they were vetted by the team before the ministerial search team, ever gave them to us. So I am going to announce. Deb, are you there? Oh, Deb. I'm going to announce the candidates as much as I can this today. So this is what you have been waiting for and what we have all been waiting for. On July the 12th, we will bring in one candidate who is the Reverend Jackie Fernandez. And she lives in Kansas City, and she spoke to us back in the winter at some point. She came to church and gave the talk. She works for the Unity, one of the Unity organizations, and she will be here on July the 12th. Date. Then the next week we have July the 19th. The Reverend Everardo Godina. He likes to be called Ev for obvious reasons. I trip over his first name often. He is from New York City, and so he'll be flying in here, and he is also works with the Unity organization, one of the Unity organizations, writing curriculum, I believe. We skip the next week, and then we go to August the 2nd. And August the 2nd, we will be bringing a candidate who applied early on. And I cannot tell you who it is because this candidate has a church and they are having the same kind of meeting today that we are. So she will have to wait until next Sunday to talk to her congregation about the status of her application, and did not want us to reveal her name until then. So next Sunday, I will tell you who that is. And then on August the 9th, as our fourth candidate, is Crystal Muldrow, who is from Detroit. And she had a ministry that she left in February, I believe. So she has been quarantining at home and is ready to move into a new church, and has so we have four excellent candidates. We are excited and delighted. Know that you as congregants will be asked to respond. You'll be asked to evaluate each candidate. So you'll need to keep in touch with the e-news because there will be an evaluation form, and we as a board then will collect those evaluation forms. And later on in August, when we need to make a decision, or when we are excited to make a decision as to who to ask to be the minister, we will look at those forms and carefully consider them. There will also be another form after the candidates have spoken. There will be another form that it ranks all of the candidates. So we really will consider your information. And Deb, I guess she's not able to join us, but so I will continue to tell you that we will bring these candidates in, each one of them. We are, of course, as a church, paying for their transportation here, and they'll be staying at the they'll be staying several places. So we are. I'm reading a note from Tom here. We're bringing them in. They will come in. Deb, Yay.
Finally, I'm on my phone.
All right. I was just going to tell people what we're going to do with the candidates, and I leave it up to you to do that.
Okay. All right. Let me just tell you just a couple things about each one. So, as Pam told you, Jackie, I would describe her as positivity. She is a musician, and she was a guest speaker for us in January, if you had a chance to hear her. She told a story about being in the in Las Vegas on that terrible day of the shooting and how she coped with that. And so truly, she was an amazing speaker and great storyteller that I can remember that story here at the end of June. Everardo, he comes most recently from the Unity Church of Fort Lauderdale. I would describe him as, these are what references said about him. He's magical. We saw his planfulness. He had a notebook for what he wanted to do with our church. And he is very much about the mission-centered model of that. The person coming on August 2nd, I would describe this person as safe, stable, sound. So a little bit of a different kind of person altogether, yet very, very qualified. And our last person is Crystal Mudlero, and she is all about diversity of religion. She's a metaphysician. She's also a Buddhist monk. So when David says we have 4 incredible candidates, we truly do. We are going to treat each one of them to a really wonderful weekend of getting to know us and us getting to know them. So it's definitely a mutually beneficial weekend, and we are very excited about that. I want to say thank you to everybody on the ministerial search team. They include Angela Herman, Allison Elliott, Jeannie Galat, Lona Davis, Gary Hild, Jim Crabtree, and me. We have worked together like a great team, and we have helped to move these people forward to our board, and our board has also interviewed them and agreed that they wanted to bring them into our church. So that is that. Finally, I got to you. Thank you very much, Pam.
All right. I'm glad you made it.
Me too.
Okay. And actually hang in there because...
Okay, I will, because we're going to do the future space.
Yes. So we'll just go on with that. And if you have any questions, wait a minute. If you have any questions, remember you can type them and send them to us, and we'll answer them after we talk. All right, Deb?
Yep. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about our future space update. I'm doing this for Patrick, who is out of town. And so I'm doing this for the entire team, and there's about 10 of us on the team. We have found that there's 3 big factors that are really, I would say, important for us. They are location, size, and price. And probably the place where we need to do some, I would say some adjustment is in size and price. Location, things that we're looking for are to be no more than 15 minutes from 103rd at Antioch. And if we're more than that, it's probably too far. We found that out. We also know that being closer into the city is a lot more expensive. And we also found out that it's probably too expensive for us to buy a vacant piece of property and build a building, because construction costs now are probably somewhere between $200 and $250 a square foot. So the best thing we can probably do is find a building that we can repurpose, and that will help us to manage our funds better. Size-wise that we're looking for is somewhere around between 7,000 and 8,000 square feet. Another part of our size thing that we're looking for is we need parking spaces for all of our wonderful community members that come to our church. For example, some places have more parking spaces than others, and so that's a critical factor. Price, we know that we need money to make this happen, and we needed more money than $1 million, believe it or not. So recently in a board meeting, we made a decision to fund the reserve fund at $375,000 instead of the $500, and redirect $125,000 to this committee to get the best situation that we possibly can. I just want to give you an idea of some of the places that we've considered. We had you look at 47th and Woodland, and you told us that was way too far out. We looked at an interesting doctor's office at 83rd and Metcalf. We decided by the time we repurposed it, it might be too expensive and maybe wouldn't even be big enough. We've looked at a building at 8673 Blue Jacket. It would be a wonderful building for us with 110 parking spaces. However, right now it's way too expensive. We've also taken a look at warehouses where there's maybe not enough parking. So we're still considering several properties right now. And I think that I'm feeling optimistic, at least, and I think the whole committee is, that we are getting closer to finding something. I can't say in the next 30 days or 60 days, but I just think we have learned so much as a committee that we can be clearer and more accurate and can cite what it is that we want to be further interested in very rapidly because of all the things that we have learned over the last year. So again, I want to thank everybody on the committee. Patrick Andrews is leading us and doing a phenomenal job at that. And so I'm here just on his behalf because he's on vacation right now. And I hope he has a good time, and knowing that this has given you a little bit of a perspective of what we're doing on a future space perspective, because I think we are very clear about what we are looking for. And keep your eyes open, as all of you in the community possibly can. We do have a great person on our committee that keeps an eye on things. We have a great realtor who's turning us on to properties. This has kind of slowed down a little bit over the COVID pandemic because there haven't been as many properties to look at, or even it wasn't even allowed for us to go look at them. So we know that it does seem slow, and many of you are going, we want a building now, which I totally understand. I have a 2-month-old baby I want to see get christened sometime in the near future. So anyway, I totally understand exactly where you're coming from. So anyway, so that's my granddaughter. So anyway, I totally understand that. And I'm feeling more optimistic that we're going to be able to find something really sweet that will take care of us today and serve us well in the future. So that our next meeting is July 8th. And so we're trying to meet a couple of times a month and trying to look at things on a very regular basis and move forward in that way. That's all I need to say. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you all for being here.
Well, thank you, Deb. It is nice that we can all work together to, I feel like that's a good feeling to know that we know each other and we know where we're going, and we really have shared the same goals. So now that we have presented, hopefully what you need to know, I would turn us back to the minister's report and transition highlights and closing, and then we can do questions. So, Reverend David.
Thank you, Pam. So I want to give a highlight of some aspects of this ministry and what has occurred in since the last annual meeting. Kelly Corbett, our youth coordinator, provided this following statement. She said, YFM has had a great year. They had 2 successful fundraisers, Painted Stones and Christmas Cookies, which allowed them to serve in the community by visiting and tithing to our neighborhood Unleashed Pet Rescue and visiting and providing personal supplies for Little Sisters of the Poor. The Uniteens coordinated the Easter egg hunt, went boating at Shawnee Mission Lake, and participated in the Fall Overland Park Parade. UCOP kids sang at Thanksgiving and Christmas and Mother's Day and cheered the Chiefs to victory, and I remember that one. Because of the pandemic, YFM had to shift to a Sunday morning Zoom meeting, which created a new avenue for connecting. And YFM is entering this next year with resilience and discernment as we all adapt and define a new normal. And we all know, as Kelly said, it is all good. Our music director, Fred Albers, shares this about the music department's continued quest to provide inspiring music and support for our Sunday celebration services. Fred worked with an outstanding group of soloists, including Molly Hammer, Terry Swope, who sang today, Pancho Javier, and Kelly Hunt, with occasional appearances by Willis White and Joel Morrison. Other guest artists included Faith Riviera, Daniel Nahmod, as well as Jan Garrett and J.D. Martin, that wonderful duo. The emergence of the coronavirus caused the primary focus to shift in March from live music to live streaming and pre-recorded music, as well as all of us needing to shelter at home. That created unexpected learning opportunities for us all, and we're looking forward to returning to live music in the coming weeks. Deb Philby, our print communications and volunteer coordinator, shared about the many volunteers and said that they combined to work over 1,500 hours this last year to support our spiritual community. Also, to serve into the larger metro area. So we send a huge thank you and celebration of everyone who contributed in an act of service. You are a blessing. So as you have the opportunity, I encourage you to give Deb Philby a special thank you for the work that she's done in being the lead person in facilitating the updating of our website and seeing its conversion into a WordPress website that will be easier to navigate and to update. You've already heard reports from the Ministerial Search Team and the Future Space Team. Also, I want to especially acknowledge our chaplains. Our prayer chaplains, along with Carrie King, who leads that program and guides that program, have been a constant blessing of prayer and support for everyone in this community. And so a special thank you. Also, our many teams, including hospitality, welcoming, church in a box, marketing, audiovisual, and offertory teams, all combined, working together and with the board to serve our congregation in multiple ways throughout this last year. Our outreach team continues to support the wider community by serving meals at St. Paul's and both shelter KC locations, and by creating gift bags for those residents of Little Sisters of the Poor that our youth went and visited. The Green Team continues to be active. This last year saw several service projects that resulted in UCOP again earning the Green Star Award. So with the Green Team's encouragement, UCOP became a partner with KC Metro Climate Action Coalition as we seek responsible ways to address climate change. And just last week, the Green Team was one of the panelists on UWM's Earth Care Ministry Team's annual summit. So bravo, Green Team. There is one more team effort I want to recognize, and that is spirit groups were started this last year. Both Tiffany Crabtree and Tom McNamara held the vision for our community, Unity Church of Overland Park, to form this small group ministry. They held it for several years. And this last year, the idea of spirit groups moved from idea into manifestation. So Tiffany and Tom started with a pilot group that became our first hosts. This was early 2019. And in the fall of last year, spirit groups were used in the time that we would have done a fall faith book study. And then again, early this year, another round of spirit groups were just starting when we were forced into stay at home due to the pandemic. While spirit groups are currently on pause, they are not ended. So thank you, Tiffany and Tom. And finally, as you know, this Sunday completes my time as your interim minister. So saying goodbye via an online format was never my intention. You are too precious to me for that. So I have talked with the board, and later this summer, after your ministerial candidates have come to meet you, I will come back on a Sunday when we're all able to be together again. I want to see you and hear you and share how much you have meant to me. So until then, know that you are loved, that your future awaits you, and as you turn the next page of your story, I am sure that you will find yourself held in God's heart as you were held in mine. And so I can only say, namaste. And so, Mike, if you will, put all of us back on stage. There are a couple questions that came up in the chat stream that I want to share and have people respond to. So one question that appeared from Marie Chris, and I think, Tom, this is directed to you. She asks, how will the $52,000 from the federal government be used? And will we tithe from that amount?
So the 52,000 is used, basically the agreement when we applied for the loan was that the 52,000 would be used to pay for payroll expenses and rent. They have kind of a fine line in how that is spent, and we will tithe on the $52,500 once it is approved. We need to make sure that the loan is forgiven, so to speak, fill out the application and file it. We'll be doing that within the next probably 60 days. And once the IRS approves it, then it is ours to spend and we will use it appropriately.
All right. So Jane Survey asked, can we get a spelling of each candidate and their titles? And so, Jane, I believe that information will probably be published in the e-news this next week as much as possible and going forward.
Along with bios.
Along with bios, okay.
Yes.
Great. So that information will be coming in a written form very soon. Jay Woods asks, he says, wouldn't you think it wiser to, 1, first hire a new minister, 2, see if the new minister is increasing attendance over 12 to 6 months, and 3, reevaluate the state of the pandemic? And so I'm not quite sure what this is in relation to, Jay, but I give you that question. Here, Jane is continuing from Jay. And then let the building fund grow to offset the expected yearly deficits, and then find a new permanent facility. So he's asking, should we put off finding a facility before we get all the other ducks in a row?
I can jump in and answer that.
Okay.
Those have been, I would say, the key issues that we've been asking, both as the board and as a future space committee. And so money that comes in from that large account that we have is siphoned back into what we're doing. And what we did is we did a good look at what it's taking us in terms of excesses to run the church. And so that's why we were able to reduce the reserve account by just about $100,000, because we had been incredibly cautious. And what we've shown over the last 12 to 18 months is that we could be closer in our estimation of that over the next 5 years. And so one of the things that I've thought myself is that three of these candidates are people from out of town. And so I think one of the things, if we say, well, we are the people that are in town that are more knowledgeable about the Johnson County area, I think where they'll have the biggest impact is in fixing the building up, not necessarily where the building is. So I think that that's an important thing to keep in mind. And I think what's going to happen is that our minister will be here probably before they have a chance to do that. And because I think we're moving along in a good way with our 4 ministerial candidates. And so that gives you some things to think about. And we have been thinking about all of those things ourselves. So thank you for your question.
Yes. Also, I wanted to add that usually there's a little yellow line there when you talk. But I guess you can hear me. Different media. I wanted to add that we feel strongly that this is a new chapter for us, a new minister, and if we can have a new building, a place to call home, that it will help us focus our energies on rebuilding the church, and that all of this can happen together as we move forward.
Okay. Thank you all. There are no more questions currently in the chat stream. So any final thoughts that you want to share?
I want to say one more thing. When I talked about the ministerial search team, I forgot one person. Marie Chris has also been a very important part of that team. And so I wanted to say thank you to her specifically too.
Okay.
That's all I need to say.
No, and I'm echoing a lot. We bid you goodbye, David, with much affection.
Well, so right back at you. So, Carrie, would you pray us out?
Oh, let's take a deep breath once more. Carrying that, can you all hear me okay? Okay. I'm carrying that feeling from the service, that optimism and energy that has been shared with us through this sharing circle. Unity Church is by no means going down the tubes. We are moving forward. People are stepping in and stepping up. And we are so grateful that we are able to continue to do this. There is a mission. There is the perfect and right place for Unity Church to be, the perfect and right minister coming forward. We are so grateful for all of that. And we just open our hearts. We just open our hearts and release any form of negativity and what about and da-da-da, because we know that God is our source. And as I said earlier, there are no obstacles when we focus on that which we seek as God's guidance and truth in the world. So we open up to that, we hold to that, we continue to know that Unity Church of Living Truth is that living truth. Thank you so much for sticking around for the meeting. We say amen, and thank you, God, for as far as we've gotten, and thank you, God, for all that is coming forward in the future. And so it is. Amen.
Amen. So, my friends, this closes the time of our sharing circle and of this Sunday service. Till we see you again, namaste, God bless.